Jesus speaks about glorifying himself and glorifying God's name today. And when we think about what it means to be glorified, when we think about glory, we think about gold and silver and power and riches and might and rays of light shining from clouds and trumpet blasts from angels and God's throne and the train of his garments filling the sky. Glory is overwhelming. But when Jesus speaks of the glory of God today, he speaks of none of those things which are perceptible to our eyes and noses and taste and touch and hearing. Because God's glory is not a physical glory. God's glory is not something we can touch or see or hear or smell. God's glory goes beyond that. Jesus, in fact, remarks that when he is lifted up on the cross, he will be glorified. Which is a strange thing to say, because how many people walked by that cross and did not say, "Behold God's glory," but rather they said, "What a shame. He could save other people, but he can't save himself. How horrible. We thought this man was going to be the king in David's line, and he turned out to be a criminal." Or maybe people thinking themselves, saying, "If only I would have gotten here sooner, then I could have been healed by this man. Now he's on the cross. What good can he do for me now?" And all of those people, with their eyes and ears and senses, do not see God's glory. The glory of his only Son, washing away sin. The glory of the Son, opening the gates of paradise once more. The souls reviving and coming back to life from the grave. They don't see God's glory, which is purely spiritual. It is a love that is poured out richly on the cross. God's glory is love poured out without limit. It is not physical. It is not tangible. It is something spiritual. And when we look at the cross then, we see the ultimate gift of love. And that is God's glory. But it is difficult to see the glory directly. You cannot see it with your eyes and your senses. And as we enter into these last 2 weeks of Lent, we ourselves get a bit of that experience as all of our crosses in church disappear. All of our statues are gone. All of the images are not there. And as these things have been taken from our sight, we have to say, I believe in the cross of Christ, even though I don't see it. I believe in the presence of the angels and saints, though I do not experience or see it. I believe in God's love, even though I don't feel it or see it. That our faith and willingness to see God's glory, willingness to be open, because God is drawing us to that. Look at the example of these Greeks that show up in Jerusalem today. They came hearing of Jesus. They had not seen him. They didn't know what he looked like. They didn't know who he was. But yet they came following, looking for him, and asking for him. Jesus said, I will draw all people to myself. And thus it has begun. The people are searching for him. But they don't go to him directly. They find Philip. And they say, you know him. Show us Jesus. Take us to him. Remarkable that Jesus' glory, his unconditional love, was so much visible in Philip that these people recognized he knew Jesus. That because Philip reflected what Jesus did, how he lived, how he went about, they saw in him a bit of Jesus and could go up to him and say, show us this Jesus whom you are reflecting. Show us this one whom we do not see, and help us to know that glory. As we come here today, we may have difficulty finding God in our lives, finding meaning in our lives, or even seeing and recognizing God's glory. And it is where we find ourselves now, is in a place where we have to make that leap of faith. And to not only make that leap of faith, but also ask God to help us, like Philip, reflect it. That God's glory is love. Love poured out generously upon the cross. That is His glory. And it is the most powerful force out there. Because if I want to love you, there is not a darn thing you can do to stop me. If I want to love someone, no one can prevent that. Not even the one being loved. If I choose to love you, or if you choose to love another, they can do nothing to prevent that love. There is no power on earth greater than the choice to love. And so God's glory then is reflected not in things, but in His people, as it was in Philip. We are the ones who choose to love. We are the ones who choose to forgive. We are the ones who choose to be kind and generous. We are the ones who choose to be spiritual and to give those spiritual gifts to others, because nothing can prevent them. If we choose to do them, no one can stop us. We have attained a glory that is beyond earth's grasp, and we have seen the Savior then truly. And like Philip, people will be drawn to us. As Jesus says, I will draw all people to myself. But they weren't drawn directly to Him. They were drawn to Him through Philip. Someone may find God through you because you have reflected His love. You have reflected His glory, His kindness, His compassion, His forgiveness, His mercy. And so we learn in these last days of Lent then to strip whatever is left that we still cling to, and that keeps us from seeing God with the eyes of the soul, in faith to know Him, to love Him, and to serve Him. Lord, whatever remains to be taken away, help that to be taken away, so that I can grow more perfect in spirit. Because just as our church has lost its images, has lost its crosses today and in these next couple weeks, it has not lost its faith. We cannot come before the Lord and say, look at my faith, I have my Bible in my hand, or my rosary in my fist, or the cross around my neck, because none of that is God's glory. God's glory is the love of the heart. And look, Lord, at the love I have shown your people. Look, love, at the mercy I have given your people. All of our churches could burn down. All of the church's treasures could turn to ash, and we would still be rich, and we would still reveal God's beauty and His glory, because it resides in human hearts. People found Jesus through Philip, not through fanfare, not through a golden crown, but through someone who loved. That is our call today, to glorify God by loving and by being loved, to find glory not with our eyes, but with our hearts, and then to reflect it, so that others, like the Greeks, will find Jesus in you.